let's talk about practice. Practice. I'm having thoughts of Allen Iverson. Practice. Practice. Yes, we're talking about practice. How to practice your drone skills. If you're going to be a drone pilot and you've bought yourself $1,000 drone and you don't want to crash it, right? So it's a skill to learn, and once you learn it, you kind of got it, but you got to kind of keep up with it. So practicing is always good, and there's ways to do this, and you got to keep practicing. You got to practice. Sorry, Alan. As a reminder, checklists are required of all flights from the FAA. So whenever you're practicing, you need to do a pre-flight check and just kind of get used to it. Practicing is yes, learning the stick movements. That's all part of this, but it's also learning your procedures, getting used to doing things the professional way. So I would kind of do that. It lowers your risk and ensures safety. It's required by the FAA, which is kind of really all you need to know. Covers you from a liability standpoint, makes you look professional. Just get used to using your checklists, and you'll be good to go. Here's one we use at Suffolk. But there are many out there online. Find one that suits your needs, and should just be comprehensive and something that you can deal with, and review it before you fly, and you'll be good to go. All right, so how do we practice? How do we learn these drone skills the most efficient way and the best way? I like regular repetition. 5 minutes a day is better than 35 minutes a day, once a week, right? So if you just do it a little bit every day, you will pick it up more quickly than if, just blocks of time. So, and then even over time, even if you've mastered this and you are a great pilot, if you put the controller down for 6 months, maybe over the winter, if you're up here in New England like we are, and you pick up your skills again, your drone again, your skills are going to be, eroded, like sort of like golfing or whatever. You come back after an off season, and you got to kind of practice a little bit more. So, you want to have these skills, these thumb movements, that feeling of flying, the kind of the unthinking mind, ready to go. Things are going to happen when you're flying. You have to deal with stuff. The more that you can kind of offload your subconscious and have mastered without really having to think about it, the better off you're going to be in a lot of respects. Different variables that you're going to encounter when you're practicing, or different things that you can set up. Try flying with different drones. You can turn your GPS on and off, or ATTI mode, attitude mode. Turn that off. Let the wind kind of push the drone around a little bit. Let it, keep it from hovering, so it'll drift more. When you take your thumbs off the stick, it's going to keep going. So learn how to do that. The real skilled drone pilots don't use GPS mode. They don't like it. They don't want the computer to ever be thinking for them. They understand when they take their hands off the sticks that they need to do the air brake themselves and pull the drone back if it's about to hit a tree or something. That's kind of the goal you're trying to get to not need GPS mode when you're flying, and just flying attitude mode. You'll get smoother shots. You'll just be, it's kind of the next level. There's a beginner mode, which limits your height and your distance away, so you can turn that off at some point. Start with beginner mode, so that way the drone never goes beyond 30 feet or whatever. And if you're in a 30-foot yard, you can feel safe, comfortable that your drone's not going to go too far away. Practice using the screen, the first-person view, kind of get used to kind of going back and forth, which is what we do when we fly. Always know where it is, where the line of sight is, and always be able to find the drone immediately. But, you're going to have to get used to looking at the screen, reading your telemetry, seeing what the drone's seeing, especially if you're doing videos and stuff or camera work. You want to put the drone just right. A big obstacle is reverse orientation. So when the drone is facing outwards, everything kind of makes sense. When you spin the drone 180 degrees and the drone is facing you, right is left and left is right. This is I don't know percentage-wise, but a huge percentage reason why people crash their drones when they first start flying. They get up, they look up, they see their drone is close to a tree, the drone's facing them, they're like, oh my God, the tree's to the right. They push the stick to the left. but that means the drone's going to go right because the left is the right because it's facing you, and boom, right into the tree, and down they go, and they're like, boy, that was quick. Never saw that coming. You start to learn automatically to either put yourself in the drone like the cockpit, or just remember that, the lights are facing you. It goes the other way. You get used to what it takes, but it takes a while. It takes a lot of practice to get to that point where you start to think like the drone. Weather conditions, practice in high wind, just do it safely, because you may have a job where, you go out and, you need to get a shot in its high wind situation. And if you know what you're doing, if you practice it, you can handle it. But, when you first start off, start in low wind, obviously. But once you get better, practice in high wind, and you'll be good to go. It's about challenging yourself, and that's a variable you can set depending on when you fly. And then your camera focus practice. Put a bucket out in your yard, or a rock or a tree or something, and try to focus on that, or kind of plan out your shot, what you want to do. Even if you're not recording, say, okay, I'm going to do a rising shot over the trees, and then pan to the right, and then think about it, what you want to do, and then try to execute it and see what it looks like. And because that's what you're going to do when you go to a client, they say, oh yeah, I kind of want a sweeping shot, around the corner, and a reveal of the cliff and the golf course in the background, and blah, blah, blah. Or you need to be able to think that way, and the client may be like, I don't know. You make it look good, right? So you have to know, all right, yeah, you know what would be cool? This, that, the other thing. A little cinematography, and that's one thing to be able to envision it, but another thing to be able to make the drone do what you want it to do, and do it smoothly, so no one, people aren't like, oh, that's a drone shot. A drone shot when it's kind of choppy. You got to practice that right out of you. All right. So mission 1, your initial in-flight inspection. So when you're first flying, first time, in every drone flight, what you want to do is you want to take off and just hover a little bit, listen to the drone, use your ears. If you start to learn the pitches of these drones after you fly them enough, you just say, something's a little squeaky, or something's a little not right. So take a listen, wiggle the controls, just give a little shake, make the drone kind of flop a little bit, see if everything is unstable, see if it's doing what you want, so, just left stick elevates it, a little bit of sticks in every direction to get it to wobble, and you should be good to go. Mission 2A and 2B, I've set this up so, with or without GPS. So mission 2 is a box flight. So you take off, perform your initial inspection of the drone, just hover a few feet away, 8 feet or so. When the drone facing outwards, fly a 2-foot box. So, right stick to the right, right stick forward to the right, and you're flying all right stick. So right, and everything, the drone is always facing away from you, so it makes sense. And once you kind of get that down, reverse it, go the other way, land the drone where you want it to land. Start with GPS mode on so it stays nice and steady. At some point, turn GPS mode off, fly attitude mode, and then the wind's going to push it a little bit, and you got to kind of get used to it that way. But that's a good first step, just a simple box facing the same way the whole time. So here we go. All right stick, the red lights there, that's the front of the drone, always facing outwards. The P is where the pilot is. So, lift it up, fly a box, you're good to go. Mission 3, turning box flight. So same idea, except when we get to a corner, we're going to turn it 90 degrees. Like, say we're going to go, clockwise. Turn it to the right. Same idea. Lift it, wiggle it. Lift it up 8 feet or so, get it up over your head. Fly like a 4-foot box, stopping at each turning point, rotating it, yaw 90 degrees, and then land the drone. So, point-to-point navigation. Once you get to your point, use the left stick, right or left, to rotate the drone, and then you bring it back. So the important part of this mission is, it's easy the first couple, but then when the drone is, you turn it and it's facing you, that's when you got to start to think about the orientation, and things are going to be reversed. So this is a good way to kind of get into that in a nice, slow, methodical way. Mission 4, inverted box flight with GPS and without GPS. So take off usual stuff, rotate the drone 180 degrees till it's facing you. With the drone always facing inwards, fly a 2-foot box. Controls will be backwards, right? So this requires both sticks in coordination. At this point, you can start to do banking turns, which is kind of what we want to do when we're flying. And once we get better, we don't ever, we don't want to go point to point. That's, when you see that in a video, you're going to be like, oh, that's a drone. You kind of, if it's a nice smooth kind of banking corner with the control, with the camera facing in the whole time, you have to think about which way the drone is flying. You also have to think about which way the camera is pointing. So, and rotating yaw, turning the drone so it's always facing in. So you got to do, your brain has to be doing 2 things at once. Mission 4 will get you down that road. Mission 5, circular flight. So now you want to smooth out those corners, do the same thing, or you can even do this with the drone facing the same way the whole time. You start that way, so it's more of a circle instead of a box. Simply all right stick, but instead of corner to corner, just make it a circle. And then mission 6, inward-facing circles. So fly the circle with the camera facing at a central point the whole time. So have facing, let's say you, or put something out in the middle, or just kind of aim for the middle of the field. So now you have to yaw or rotate your drone while you're flying. So it's really 2 thumbs going on at once, but try to keep it smooth, and you just got to keep practicing it counterclockwise and clockwise until you can kind of be thinking out of 2 parts of your brain at once. It's a little tricky. And then 7, normal figure 8s. So take the drone up, start to do circles, and then cross over, and then you need to alternate between regular and inverse orientations when you do this. So take a look at this, and this usually comes pretty natural once you've got those circles down. But now you kind of have to, when you're doing the figure 8, you got to make sure you got a big wide area. Think about those turns and what's coming next, and you feel a rhythm at some point, which is great. This is what you want, but it's when things go wrong, you don't want to rely on those kind of that automatic nature of it. So you gotta, it's easier to fly forwards on this one. You kind of imagine yourself in the cockpit, and it starts to make sense. But when you're facing outwards, the whole time trying to keep the camera outwards, now your brain's going to go nuts trying to figure this out. So this takes a while. Camera facing a central point of interest the whole time. This is really difficult, but you'll get there if you just keep practicing, right? So you'll work through the box drills pretty quickly. A couple flights, you're ready to go. But then once you start that reversing the orientation, it can be very difficult. And then inward facing figure 8s. Instead of facing outwards, the drone is now facing inwards. At a central thing. This is ridiculously hard, and this is the type of thing that you could probably master it at some point, but if you take a month off and try to do it again, you're gonna have to kind of get back into that zone because it's really difficult. Both these missions, all these mission 7s, the figure 8s can be tricky, but you'll get there eventually, right? So this is how we practice. You can start with the Tello drone indoors with this stuff, or even take the Tello drone outdoors. Just careful that don't do it on too windy of a day. And follow this progression. Think about what you're doing before you fly. I mean, anyone can take the drone up and just fly it around the yard, and that's fun. There is certainly some use to that, but I find that it's more efficient to intentionally do something. Like think about what you're trying to do, and then execute it. Right? That's really how we're going to get better quickly. So. And that's just kind of, and if you're going to be a professional drone pilot and you want to be a good, safe, efficient drone pilot, this is the way to do it. Okay. So, and then at some point you'll have this stuff mastered, and then the sky's the limit, right? You can then start to link together great cinematic shots and create a great reel. And, but all of this, stems from this initial training that, is very valuable, and but you got this. It just takes some time, and you just got to practice it, right? Practice. I'm thinking playoffs. Playoffs. Yeah, go practice. It's worth the time. Good luck.